Welcome back to Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, joined today by Paul McAllister, and we're going to be giving you the extra time match review for Everton 2, Ipswich 2, the penultimate game at Goodison Park, ending in a draw against an already relegated Ipswich Town. Paul, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts? We'll start going into the game, obviously the penultimate game at Goodison. What were you thinking going into the game?
Um, Thinking going into the game was it's about time Everton won at Goodison Park. We haven't done that anywhere near as much as we should have this season. What are we? I think we're going to end the season now with is it the worst record, home record at
Yeah,
Goodison, or joint worst record? I know we've had it was bad one year under Martinez, and I think it was bad that one year when we had Lampard and then switched the dice. But I can't think of how many home games we've won this season. It's not many, maybe four.
It's definitely not many. I think we are statistically now. We are going to be having the worst record at Goodison in a season. Obviously, because I think we're on four, and I think the worst is six. So obviously, with there being one game left to even try and better that or equal it, we can't do that. So yeah, as you said, it's probably the worst statistical record that we've got at Goodison. Which again, does it leave a little bit of a bitter taste in the mouth, leaving Goodison with it being the last season? I'm not one for big sentimental things, but I think we probably wanted to see Goodison out in a bit more of a brighter fashion, shall we say? But again, it just shows where we have been as a club for the last 3 or 4 years, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a shame that we haven't got more wins at Goodison this year. But are we in a relegation battle? No, we're not. Have we had ownership crises going on this season? No. Hopefully, all that's behind us now. So it's not anything to get too worked up about. Sadly, I wasn't at the game myself. I promised my ticket to a relative who took me up on it. So I've only got one game to go, the Southampton one myself. But I really enjoyed all the displays and all the banners and all
Yeah.
the. I think it was what was it? Supporters Day. It was officially called when
Yeah, I
everyone
think
got
so. Yeah.
encouraged to come and to wear blue,
Yeah.
even if you didn't have the kit. Yeah, it just looked really, really colourful and really, really sort of upbeat, which
Yeah,
there
I was
hasn't
going
been
to
a
say
lot
it was
of this
lively.
season, or
Yeah.
at least prior to kick off, it was upbeat. I feel like the fans really kind of got on board with the whole idea and took it to heart and said, right, let's kind of make the effort here. Let's make this look good visually on TV for everyone who's watching. So, yeah, it was. I think the supporters did their part to try and make it as good a day as possible. It's just unfortunately the results wasn't what we all wanted, and I don't really think the result is at all acceptable when you're not beating an already relegated side.
Yeah, true.
We'll come on to that
I
with
mean, I was
nuts and
going to say,
bolts.
yeah, but fair play to the 1878s. Just before we go into the actual game itself, fair play to the 1878s because everything they did pre-match, creating the atmosphere before kickoff. As you said, the fans were massively up for it. Z cars sounded even better in the sun with the way that the 1878 sort of organised it with all the ticker tape and all the cards up in the park end. I think that there was a few Liverpool fans giving us a little bit of stick for the placement of the cards and what it said Goodison Park in the park end, but nevertheless, I thought the 1878s did an absolutely fantastic job and as you said, set the tone very early doors for the atmosphere, and the fans did their part. And did the first half kind of match that? Um, that's
Uh,
we can go into the game now.
First 20 minutes, uh, it was like a training session,
Mm,
wasn't it? Really, because there was no tempo to the game and no
yeah,
clear cut chances, and it felt like both teams were already got the flip flops on and ready for the summer holidays. Ipswich because they've got nothing to play for except the pride,
yeah,
and Everton because we've got nothing to play for other than just trying to win the odd game here or
league
there before the end of
position.
the
Yeah,
season and just give fans a bit of a better feeling going into the summer. But the game itself, it came to life after we went 1-0 up. It had like a little 25-minute spell where Everton kind of kicked on and looked to really get on the ball and do stuff. And we played some good football here and there. I mean, the first goal, Beto's header, that's the type of goal I love to see Everton score. Just a cross in from wide and a big striker, big target man getting his head on it in the penalty box and just putting it beyond the goalkeeper.
yeah,
I love a headed goal personally, and I really love a headed goal from an Everton card. I know Beto's not technically he's not officially the number nine, but he is the number nine
yeah.
in terms of his position in the team. Just a big Everton number nine getting his head on it. We haven't. I can't remember any other example of that happening this season because even the games where we've scored headers, it feels like they were all own goals,
Yeah.
like against Wolves. So it was good to see a big Everton number nine get the classic Everton style goal before we send Goodison off. But McNeil's goal as well was a good hit. It was McNeil's. a really crucial part of this team, and I wasn't sure about putting him on the right wing. I don't think it really worked, but
Mm.
if it's ever going to work long term, then it's him doing what he did in that
Mm.
passage of play, which is cutting in and hitting it on his left foot on the right. We've tried to see it play him on the right. Lampard tried it when he was here. I think Dyche maybe tried it once or twice, and in the number 10, and it never quite came off. And it seems like Moyes is willing to give it a go now that
Yeah.
McNeil's back fit again. So it was a really good goal, helped by the fact that the goalkeeper got caught out. Whenever
Yeah.
the goalkeepers just stand still and watch the ball, those type of
Looks
goals
better,
always
doesn't
look
it?
they always look slightly better than they
Yeah.
really were. But yeah, just two goals gave everyone lift off, gave everyone a good feeling, and made us think, yeah, we're gonna get this 3 points today. This will be no reason for anyone to be groaning, or no reason for anyone to be worried, or no reason for anyone to be nervous.
Yeah.
Even the players, Ipswich have got nothing about them. We've got the goal. Surely they won't. They haven't got a goal in them. We'll just this will be a cakewalk, but
Yeah.
didn't quite play out like that, and it was largely down to Everton's own making rather than anything spectacular that Ipswich did.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, touching on the McNeil goal, actually thought it took a deflection at the point of when it hit the back of the net. I was very surprised to see the keeper reacting the way he did. But yeah, I think, as you said as well with the Beto goal, it was a typical classic Everton's number 9 goal. A player that, we maybe had a little bit of a debate about last week, Carlos Alcaraz, putting in a great cross, finding Beto's head. I think that's what we want to see from him more if he is to sign permanently, for example. That's what we want to see from more finding the Everton number 9 and putting in decent crosses and getting decent assists. But as you said, going 2-0 up, at that point you're thinking, this is our game now. This is our game to lose. We have to now capitalise on it, really turn the screw and make sure Ipswich have absolutely no chance of getting back in the game. And part of me thinks that we kind of underestimated them a little bit. I think they do have a couple of decent individuals. I think Amari Hutchinson had a pretty quiet first half. So did Julio Enciso. One player that I thought stood out in terms of the Ipswich front line, I think Liam Delap. He was causing a few problems here and there. Had a little bit of a scuffle with Jake O'Brien. What did you think of his performance? Obviously, a player that has been linked with Everton in recent weeks and has gone on to Goodison Road and signed a wall, which a lot of Evertonians think that it means that he's signing a contract now for the club in the summer. But what did you think of his performance? Because I thought, from that Ipswich front line, I thought he was probably the one that was causing the most problems for us.
He just did what any striker should be doing if they're not getting any service and no clear-cut chances to take advantage of. Just make yourself a nuisance. Just
Yeah.
put yourself about. Just make sure the opposition know that you're there.
Mm.
And that's exactly what he done. He said he got very lucky to avoid a second yellow card when he went flying into Jared Branthwaite, I think, for a header that he was never ever going to win.
Yeah.
Don't even think he jumped off the air. I think Branthwaite went up to
Yeah,
clear the ball, and he went in and caught Branthwaite in the ribs. That was a bit naughty. And he obviously had the little scuffle O'Brien as well. But Delap's one of those players who looks like he's got a bit of devil in him, maybe. He
Yeah.
reminds me a little bit of Jamie Vardy in that sense,
Yeah.
where he's the type of player who opposition fans will just hate, and his own players and his own supporters will love him because he is up for a physical battle. He will put himself about. He's not one of these type of strikers who, if things not going his way or he can't get the service, you can just forget he's even out on the pitch, which is what happens a lot of the time, especially with a lot of Everton strikers over the years. He's just a player who is going to muck in and is going to make sure that the opposition can't switch off for a moment with him. So he's getting linked with Everton. There's other clubs he's getting linked with as well. Clubs who I think if they do go in with an offer, he's going to choose over Everton. Your Chelsea's, your Manchester United's. If they come in with a bid and Delap's offered a contract by them, then 100% he's going to pick them over Everton. And why wouldn't he? They're going to have European football next season, probably. At least one of them will. And they're probably going to offer him more money than Everton can offer him. And
I agree with you.
in the case of United, they'll probably offer him game time because they're desperate for a striker. So, yeah, maybe he's on Everton's wish list, but I think whether we get him or not will depend on what his options are rather than does he want to play for Everton, rather. But yeah, he looked raw. To be a raw talent. He's young, but I can definitely see why David Moyes and maybe people at the club will look at him and think, yeah, put him in our team, and in 2-3 years we can mould him into something. He's got that sort of inner dog, hasn't he? That I think a lot of Evertonians would really like. Just a player who's aggressive, likes a snarl, isn't afraid to leave one on the opposition, and will just always remind everyone that he's on the pitch playing, rather than kind of, oh, what have you done today? Which is what we have a lot of times with our strikers.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe a bit of an optimistic one. Well, we've probably got to address the other elephant in the room from that first half, and it was obviously the goal that got Ipswich back in the game. Obviously, 2-0 up, cruising, and Ciso gets the ball in midfield, whacks out an absolute wonder strike, clipping in off the underside of the bar. And it was actually met by applause in the Gladys Street, so that's when it's been a pretty decent strike and it's hit the back of the net. But I think the one thing we have to address is what our midfield are doing in that, to allow Enciso to have that time to pick out the shot. He can hit them. This kid's been nominated for Puskas Awards in recent seasons. If you give him that amount of time in that sort of area, he's going to try and pick out the top corner, and that's exactly what he did. But talk to me, who are you thinking that should have done better? Because I think there's one name in my mind that I think stood off him way too long and let him have way too much space on the edge of the box there.
Yeah, that's fair. But again, if he hits that 9 times out of 10, it goes in the back of the Gladys Street. So I'm not going to be overly critical of the players. Sometimes play up the opposition to score an absolute wonder strike, and all you can do is shrug your shoulders. I mean, I don't like people clapping it in the crowd. It's not a pre-season game. It's not a case of we're 5-0 up and the ground's half empty and we've got the whistle's going to go any second and it makes no difference. That was a goal that got them back in the game. I think that's something that has to be. Fans need to stop that. Maybe I'm just being a bit of a Goodison Dar, a bit of a narc, but don't clap opposition players when they do something brilliant that gets them right back in the game and causes our players to be nervous. Don't do that because, again, it's not a pre-season, it's not a testimonial, it hasn't come at a stage in the game where it's got no chance of affecting the results because the whistle's going to go any minute. I don't really want to dig at the players. I think it's more just the kinds of, what can you do? It's like when Garnacho scored that overhead kick against us last season. It's probably the best goal that Goodison Park has seen since that Garnacho overhead kick a year and a half ago, whenever it was. Yeah. Sometimes there's just the opposition score goals, and all you can do is just kind of shrug your shoulders and reset and go, okay, let's just get the ball back in the centre circle. Let's look to kick off straight away. That's their one. That's our warning. That's the only chance they're going to get against us. Let's not give them another one. Yeah. But I just don't think it bears overreading, really. It was an absolute wonder strike. The lad won't score a better goal than that in his entire career. He won't dream of scoring a better goal. And it's one of the very few things that Ipswich will probably look back at when it's all said and done. With Ipswich get into the summer and they've been relegated and all the football's been played, that will probably be one of the highlights of their season. Jim Wynn and Cisco scored that stunner at Goodison and got us back in the game. Yeah,
no, it's spot on. I mean, it kind of all went downhill from there, didn't it? Obviously, as you said, there was a bit of a nervousness around Goodison after that. When that ball hits the back of the net and there's a bit of a round of applause, and it kind of sets the tone that we're kind of expecting Ipswich to get back in the game in the second half, and that's exactly what they did. Really, it went downhill from there, didn't it?
To me, it conveys a message to our players on the pitch that the fans are not that bothered.
Yeah.
So if he scores a stunner like that and we clap, it's like, oh well, if he scored again, then it's not the end of the world, is it? The fans are not really taking this seriously. The fans are just here for the day out. Then they've got the flag. They're here to see the flags. They're here to sing the songs and the banners. If we don't get the result, then it's no big deal, is it? Yeah. And I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal because, as I said, there's nothing really on this season for us now. We're just trying to get as many points as we can.
Is it?
No, we're not going to get. It's not a case of we're looking over our shoulder. Like, no one's going to finish above us to the point where we're in danger. But big clubs don't. Clubs that take themselves seriously don't do that. Liverpool fans at Anfield wouldn't applaud that. United fans at Old Trafford wouldn't applaud that. Chelsea wouldn't applaud it. Arsenal wouldn't applaud it. And if you want to put yourself in the bracket of these clubs or aim to get there and be taken as seriously as these clubs are doing, then some of that's on the fan base as well. There's only so much you can shout at the players and the manager. Sometimes the fans need to do their bit as well. And for me, it sent the wrong message out, and it probably allowed the players to kind of lose that edge that maybe they would have had otherwise. Oh God, we can't. That sort of feeling of, oh God, where did that come from? Oh God, we need to wise up here. We were flying a minute ago, and now the game's live again. But if the fans are going to clap, it'd be just like, oh well, they're not bothered, are they? So let's just play the game as it comes. And if they score again, nah.
Do you think it? I genuinely think that maybe the lack of James Tarkowski on the pitch on Saturday to sort of rally the troops from that goal, because he would be going mental if that goal went in, and it would. And it felt like it was only Jordan Pickford that really was that bothered
Not
about
happy
it.
about it.
And
Yeah,
Jordan Pickford even, is a little bit at fault because he's given high fives to Enciso. That doesn't send out the wrong message to fans really, like either. But I think, the absence of James Tarkowski in that situation, I think if he was on the pitch at that point, I think he would have rallied the troops together, told us to, get our head in the game and really sort it out. And I think, as you said, the players on the pitch didn't sort of get the right message from the fans, so that didn't help. But I think the lack of a leader on the pitch, maybe at centre half with Tarkowski, maybe that contributed to it also, and it was kind of just a recipe for disaster from both sides.
yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. If Tarkowski was on the pitch, Tarkowski would have, chewed some people out for that. And this is going to be controversial. If it was Dyche in the dugout, I think Dyche would have chewed some people out for it. Maybe Moyes did chew them out at half time. We don't know.
Yeah,
Moyes is not the type of manager who does all that sentimentality. Moyes has got a hot button, as they say. He's got a temper. He's not afraid to sort of lash the players when he do something he's not happy with. So maybe they did, but yeah, I agree with your point. It sent the wrong message, and I think if we had other players on the pitch, that wouldn't have happened. But sometimes you can't just leave it all down to the players on the pitch. Sometimes the fans have got to do their part, and I just thought it was not disappointing. Then it was just kind of just silly. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? But
yeah.
maybe I'm getting a bit Goodison Dardy now that I'm in my 30s. Don't know.
I mean, one thing that definitely didn't get an applause in the second half was George Hurst's equaliser. Obviously, falling to an equaliser to Ipswich is not what you want at home, especially in your penultimate game at Goodison Park. But talk to me about that. What are you thinking? With the equaliser, could it have been avoided?
Yeah, but it could have been avoided because it was clearly a foul on Nathan Patterson
Yeah.
in the build-up. He was fouled up the pitch, and then George Hurst got met the cross at the back post where the right back should be.
Mm.
Now, maybe Jake O'Brien should have been a bit sharper to the man behind him because he
Yeah.
clearly didn't realise George Hurst was there. But I'll let him off with that because they were a man but down in the box. Nathan Patterson, our right back, was up the pitch on the floor, rolling around, holding his face.
Yeah.
And considering that the referee in the first half twice stopped the game to check on an Ipswich
Yeah.
player without giving a foul, it was
Mm.
just ridiculous. I can't remember who he was. It was the Ipswich guy who has all the slick black hair. Um, he's a winger, I think. But there was one point where he got winded by a challenge, and the referee blew up just to make sure he was okay, and then didn't give a foul. He just gave a drop ball. It's like, well, if it's not a foul,
Yeah.
you can't, and it's not a head injury, then you can't stop the
That's not-
play.
yeah.
You shouldn't be doing that's against the rules. You only stop play if it's a head injury or if you're blowing up for a foul or something like that.
Yeah.
No, so the referee was a bad prefect and he got that one wrong. There was definitely a foul on Patterson in the lead up, but did we deserve to have an equaliser scored against us? Yeah, we probably did, really, because the second half performance just wasn't good enough. I mean, we had a lot of the ball and we had Ipswich pen back in their own half, but we never looked like carving them open. I think their goalkeeper, is it Palmer?
Yeah.
I think he only had one or two things to do, really. There was a cross, I think, that caught him out, that had him scrambling at one point, and I think he had to come and claim a ball and nearly slid out of the side of the area with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
One
mean, you're,
point,
you're
yeah,
spot on. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. What
I can't
other
think
than
of
that,
any
though?
chances
What did he
really
do?
that we had. I can't think of any chances that we really that were clear cut and you go, yeah, you have to score that one because there was a few crosses from McNeil which found the back post but just sailed over everyone, or as you said, Palmer flapped at it, and that was really the only one that nearly caught him out. So I completely agree with you. If you're looking at the complexion of that second half and did we deserve to concede? Yeah, probably did. Yeah, we
Yeah,
probably 2-2 was probably the fair result in hindsight.
yeah, that second half performance, we've watched that performance so many times from Everton over the years at Goodison and seen us get beat 1 or 2-0 by the opposition. And it's technically that's what happened, doesn't it? We went
Yeah.
into the game, we went into the second half 2-1 up and then didn't look like scoring the second half. And then the opposition team got a jammy goal against us, and you can't say it was undeserved. So those performances need to be cut out. In the first Moyes there, we didn't have too many of those, especially in the latter years. That sort of what's the thing, that toxic Goodison sort of feeling. And it wasn't toxic on the day.
No, no.
No, it wasn't like the fans got on the players' back and the players started flapping at things. No, but it was that kind of feeling of the players are just not inspired and the
Yeah.
players are not really, they're taking an extra touch and they're overthinking things a second too long. There was definitely that feeling, and the fans weren't really, you know, kind of getting up and trying to increase the tempo. And it's a two-way thing because how are the fans supposed to get up and help create an
Yeah,
atmosphere when they're watching what they're being served up? But those type of performances where just Everton just sort of just are really passive and really sort of just lame duck.
Yeah,
Those performances crept in over the last 10 years or so,
yeah,
post Moyes, under various different managers. So that'll be something I'm really hoping David Moyes stamps out
yeah,
now that he's back at Everton over the next season or 2, 3 years, however long he's here, that he cuts out these performances at Goodison where just the team, no matter who's in it, on the day in the start lineup, the team just sort of gets bored,
yeah,
essentially. Because that's the way I look at it. The players look like they were bored. And
yeah, yeah.
that's sorry, no matter what game you're playing in. If it's a first team game with points on it, there is no excuse for you to play like as if you're bored and
Yeah.
you're thinking of other things.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I mean, just before we wrap up, we'll give our overall thoughts on it. I want a player that's played well, and then also have your thoughts on David Moyes sort of changed after the performance on Saturday.
Player who played well. So I'll give it to Dwight McNeil.
Yeah,
I was maybe Beto because I really liked Beto's goal. McNeil scored himself, but McNeil's been out of the team for about 3 months, hasn't he? Longer, and you can definitely notice the difference when he's gone for a prolonged period like that. I mean, I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, and there's a lot of fans who, especially in the first year or so, were really not fans of him. They thought, "What have we done buying this lad? He's not good enough. He's not going to make a difference at Everton." And he was kind of hampered a little bit by the fact that he was essentially brought in as Richarlison's replacement, and
yeah.
next
He's
to
never going to
nobody's
be
going to be
that,
able to replace Richarlison in Everton fans' minds, are they? But McNeil, I think, has been a really good buy since we got him. And when he's in the team, 9 times out of 10, we're better for it. And he's in a new position now. He got put on the right wing, which is not his natural position,
yeah.
and it's a place on the pitch that hasn't worked for him previously. But he's come back in for his first start in months, and he's gave it everything, and he's done exactly what the fans were hoping he'd do in the right wing, which is cut in, have a shot on his left foot, and it's worked out for him. So,
Yeah.
here's to more performances like that from Dwight McNeil. So I'll give him the plaudits. And what was the second question? Sorry.
About Moyes, has your
As we
thoughts on Moyes sort of changed
No,
after it?
no, not really. I said this at the time we were bringing him in. David Moyes is a very similar manager to Sean Dyche. He's just a level up from
Mm.
Sean Dyche. So a lot of his methods are the same. A lot of his thinking's the same.
Yeah,
In some sense, his personality is a little bit the same, as in he downplays expectations a little bit, or if he doesn't downplay expectations, he definitely doesn't build up
yeah,
expectations. But I just think he knows he's a better coach than Sean Dyche, and he's better at reading a game than Sean Dyche, and he's probably got a better eye for a transfer than Sean Dyche. But he's not a miracle worker. He's not someone who's going to come in and take a bottom half team, which is what we are,
yeah.
bottom half team that will get to 40 points on average. He's not going to suddenly come in and put the rocket boosters and turn
As into European.
yeah, and turn average players into above average players who are competing for the top half or having a cup run. Until we get this squad improved and we get a few players out the door and we get a few signings who come in and key positions, there's only so much David Moyes is going to be able to do, and I think he's got the most out of what he can. He's got us almost to 40 points, and I think if he started the season with us, he would have got us somewhere in the mid 40s to high 40s, which is not drastically more than what Sean Dyche would have got us, and it's what Sean Dyche got us last year. So, yeah, I think David Moyes is the right man for now. Definitely, my thoughts haven't changed on him, but fans need to temper their expectations. David Moyes, unless he's given some major support in the summer, is not going to get this Everton team anywhere near Europe the way it is.
Spot on. Yeah, I literally couldn't have put it better myself. I think Moyes, obviously, I think he's the right man to be at the helm for this summer rebuild, which is being banded about. I think, as you said, he's got a good eye for a transfer, better than Sean Dyche probably had. So I think with the freaking group coming in, he's saying that there is money to spend. I think he's probably the best person to work it out and get a decent squad in place. By the time we get towards the back end of the start end of next season, the back end of pre-season, I think by the time we've got a decent squad in there, I think David Moyes is the right man to have at the helm for that. But yeah, no, I completely agree with it. Nothing's changed after Saturday. It was just a little bit of a damp squid, a little bit of a poor performance. But I think, next season you'd hope that those kind of performances will be ironed out and we have a little bit more quality in the squad.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. David Moyes has been there, done it, seen the t-shirt. His bread and butter has always been take a bottom half side that is just chasing its tail. It's probably too good to go down, but isn't looking like it's going to do anything that relevant in the next couple of years. He takes that team, he polishes it up, he gets rid of all the turd, brings in a little bit of quality if he can, and if you leave him alone for a year or two, he'll get that team into the top half, and he might just get into Europe. He did it with Everton the first time, more than once.
Yeah,
Built a couple of good Everton teams. Did it with West Ham when West Ham were in an absolute state,
yeah,
and I'm confident he's going to do it again. And he probably would have I put it this way: I don't think he was ever the right man for Man United, but I think Man United would have been much better off the 5 years after they sacked him if they'd left him in for 5 years
Yeah.
rather than going through your Van Gaals and your Mourinho's and your Solskjaer's. So, yeah, he's a very underrated manager who's got his place in football, and the best place for David Moyes in football right now is here at Everton, build us up, and we're very lucky to have him back.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's just about all we've got time for today for our review of Everton 2, Ipswich 2. Paul, thank you for your thoughts. That was good. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Obviously, we're getting towards the back end of the season now, so ticking towards the end of the Goodison Park days. But let me know your thoughts in the comments about what me and Paul have been talking about. Do you agree with some of the stuff? Do you not agree with some of the stuff? But that is all from us today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.